Hi, this is Mr. Mitchell, Coosa High School physical science teacher, and in this particular video, we're going to talk about literal equations. Literal equations have rules to them which help you, I guess I'll call it, move formulas around. And what I mean by that is, if you have a formula like F, force, equals m times a, mass times acceleration, many times you are given the mass and the acceleration and you just multiply them together to get the force. But what happens if you are not given the mass times acceleration? Let's say you are given the force and you are given the mass. You can plug the numbers in, but you don't have this acceleration on one side. You may notice that you want to isolate the value that you're finding. So in doing a literal equation for this formula, you would isolate the a, and you'll learn how to do that in the next two slides. In other words, you're going to move this m over to this side of the equal sign. And once you get the m on the other side of the equal sign, you then have a by itself isolated on that side. However, what you do to one side to get this m, you have to do to the other. And then you can see equations can be flipped. I think we probably need to see an example. So here is an example. Lisa used 10 newtons of force when she hit the nail with a 4-kilogram hammer. What was the acceleration of the hammer when it hit the nail? So yes, you are looking for the acceleration. Here's how you move, here's how you isolate acceleration. You can see that put the rules down here. To get rid of this m, we're going to divide this entire side by m. Think of it this way. If this was 5a, to get rid of the 5, you would divide by 5. And 5 over 5 equals 1. 1 times a equals 1a. And what we want is 1a on this side. We don't know what m represents yet. Well, we will because it's going to be up here. But m is going to end up needing to be over on this side. So remember, rule number 2, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So what did we do to this side of the equation? We divided by m. So go across the equal symbol and divide by m over here. So that means this will happen. This m will cancel out with this m, and you are left with a equals f over m. And you know the rule says equations can be flipped. So I can write it with a on this side. Just seems to work out better when it's on the left side of the equal sign. So that is how you would do that. And of course, what you could do is now fill in what the numbers should be. The F looks like it is 10 newtons. And the M looks like it is 4 kilograms. So 10 divided by 4, I happen to know, is 2.5. And acceleration is in that good old meters per second square. So that's an example of how you could do a literal equation. Why don't we do a couple of more literal equations without the numbers in there, just so you can see the rules. Now last slide we had something with F equals ma, same thing with the slide before, but now we've got a couple of different formulas here. This is not multiplying out, this is dividing. So if we were to solve for, say, d, then how would we do that? So let's look at what we have. We, in essence, have to get rid of this t, is what we have to do. So if you have t at the bottom of the fraction, how would you get rid of it? Well, you would multiply it times t. I'm going to do some erasing so I can explain that better. So if you multiply it times t, it's the same thing as multiplying t over 1. And what happens is that you have a canceling out that happens. The t and the t cancel out. and the d over the 1 is the same as d. But remember, you have to do what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So what did we do to this side? We multiplied it times t, or t over 1. So I'll multiply it times t, which is the same as multiplying it times t over 1. So what you have, I will go down here. You have t times v, that's what you got here, equals d. So I'm hoping that you'll get where you don't have to put the over 1, that you could just multiply the top sides by t. So you have TV equals d. And remember that equations can be flipped, so instead of keeping it TV equals d, we can flip it around to where d equals TV. So that's how you would do that. Now here we have something that is a little bit different. We have some adding going on here. I don't have one that has subtracting, but I'll just do the one with adding because it's done the same way. If we were to solve for, say, well, why don't we solve for x? Solving for x. So we have to get rid of the m, and we have to get rid of the b. Why don't we get rid of the b first? I think that would be least complicated. So how do you think you can get rid of this b here? What can you do to both sides? What you can do is subtract b. So whatever number b represents, if you subtract it, it will be nothing. So if b were 10 and you subtract 10, then that means there's really nothing left. But remember, what you do on one side, you must do to the other. So you have to subtract b to this side too. So let's see what you're left with. Y minus b is what's on this side of the equal sign. And you have mx because these b's canceled out. That b canceled out that b. Does that make sense? So now you have to get rid of the m, because we are solving for x. So do you remember how you get rid of the m? You divide by m. Because it's multiplication here, you divide by it. And remember, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So I'm going to divide this side by m also. This m canceled out with this m, and you are left with x isolated on one side. So x equals all that over here. So what I'm going to do is rule number 3, since equations can be flipped, I'm going to put the x on the left side, then the equal, and you have y minus b over m. So does that make sense? Hopefully this will give you enough to practice. You can see our practice is right up here at tinyurl.com/y5nkkse3. And like before, that may be something you were already given. Well, I hope this has been helpful as far as learning literal equations.